some of it is gang graffiti, some of it is just taggers who are going out, they want to put their names out there. Some just want to create art in the community as well. Some just want to do that. Regardless of why they're doing it, the reality is most of it, if not all, is illegal. And so we've got to figure out how to deal with that issue. But then once you take away art, what are we doing to replenish the art that is here, that was once there in that position? So without further ado, I would like to bring forward Zachary Meers. He's the project manager and data analytics specialist. Y'all give it up. All right. And he also brought with him Mr. Anthony Woods. Mr. Anthony Woods, y'all get it from Mr. Anthony Woods. And also Mr. Reese Gallimore. All right, that's it. Right? So these are the gentlemen who actually remove all of that graffiti away from the viaducts, overpass, you name it, this is what they do. So thanks for being here. Hey. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. About yourself, sir, give us a little background about you. How did you end up in this position where you sit today as the, let me make sure I get the title right. This is the project manager and data analytic specialist for
PMAS for short.
PMAS
for GSD, General Services Department. Well, I'm originally from San Francisco. I've been in Detroit about 10 years. I've worked for the city about 4 years, and a couple years ago I started a public art program called City Walls that we do for the city of Detroit. And you know, people get promotions, people move, and the person who was running the graffiti removal program got a promotion, so there was an opening, and they felt that there was sort of a symbiotic relationship between the removal of graffiti and the art program, so they moved me over there about a year ago.
So are you an artist by heart, by trade?
I like to say that I retired once I started working for the city and took this position.
How do you retire from being an artist, though? I mean, I thought isn't this something that's in your heart, in your soul, it's in your hands?
Yeah, that's a longer conversation.
Okay.
I think we could take that.
So now, how is it being an artist and being the person who essentially has to remove someone else's art? Is that a bit of an internal conflict to an extent?
I mean, it could be. I think that I probably look at it more like how you said. In the end, it's illegal. If you don't have permission to do what you want to do on somebody else's property, then, you know, that's illegal. So I don't have any problem taking that down. But also having the channels for outreach and creating more art. We've done a lot of good work on that side of the coin too. So I'm glad we're able to do that. But yeah, I pretty much draw that line where it's like you have permission, it stays. If you don't, it goes.
So what do you see typically as the most malicious graffiti, if you will? We're talking, again, viaducts, or we're talking tagging buildings, personal property of individuals?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I mean, I think that our viaducts do often get hit a lot. They are and they're such large in scale that, you know, you can associate a cost benefit to how much resources are being spent by the city and how many times we have to go back there. So as far as a drain on our resources, the viaducts are probably number one, just because of the scale. Sometimes a pet peeve of the program is we will clear a corridor, say we'll do all of Gratiot, and it'll take us 2 or 3 days and all of our crew, and it gets clear and it's perfect, and you mark that down, and then the next day it could take one individual to walk down that street or drive down that street and just do the whole thing. So it takes them one night to ruin 3 days of work for us, and then we got to go back there. And so for me, that's like my biggest pet peeve with the program.
So we talk about graffiti, and again, how many of you actually see a lot of graffiti in the city of Detroit? On the freeway mostly, because I'll tell you, I don't recall seeing. I mean, I remember seeing a lot back in the day, but not as much now. So it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. So
for folks who are here and even watching on our streaming broadcast, why should people care about what you guys do? I mean, because again, we're talking art. And yeah, it's illegal, but some of it is victimless crime kind of stuff. Tell us about what it was in terms of saturation before you all came into effect to where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that probably the graffiti scene in about 2011 exploded in the city, and for a few years there, probably 3 stories up, and every building was covered in graffiti. someone once told me a story that there was a prospective business and they were going through a community and they thought to themselves, like, there's all this graffiti, and then we came in and cleaned it, and when they came back for their second tour of a property they were thinking about opening the business in, and General Service had come through and cleared it out with both graffiti and weeds and all of the things that we do, they came back and said, wow, this is a whole different place. It changed their perspective. And so what we do is try to blend in so that you really don't have to care about it, so we can make the areas feel like they were already that way. So we're trying to do that a little bit more with by matching what colors were there before and doing a better job of having it blend in. And so I guess in general it just makes it more welcoming. It's good if you don't notice it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What kind of talk to us about that, the whole blending aspect of it, because you may have some situations where you have a wall and you can't find the right paint, or you have a wall that may be historic and you have to treat it a certain kind of way. Talk to us a little about how you determine how to treat a certain structure or material.
So that's why we have Mr. Reese and Mr. Woods. Woods is our head of paint, so he will make that decision based on the paints that we have available and how the current condition of the wall is. And Reese also is like our head of chemical treatment, so if there's brick or granite or cinder block that has not been previously damaged, is salvageable, then he'll make that determination and use the chemicals that we use to bring that surface back to practically new.
Ms. Woods, want to add anything on to that at all?
Oh, yes, sir. How you doing, Councilman?
How you doing? Thank you for being here, too.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. As far as graffiti, to some it's an art, to others it's against the law. So our job is to go out and get the tags off the buildings or the viaducts or whatever you have there. But we determine the job as, like you were saying, if it's a brick building, it's historic, we use this stuff called snot. It's elephant snot. That's not a good word to say, but
I think we've all heard it before.
And that's what, yeah, very, very dangerous. It's a chemical we use, and you apply it to the wall so it can stay in its original texture. Mm-hmm. You apply it, and we have power washers, and we spray it off. Some buildings have been tagged a lot. We can paint over them, but it depends on. You have to really be there to see it. To know, to know.
So it's a little more specialized than just going out and washing a wall, or
yes, sir.
You have to know what you're dealing with, right. Because a lot of people get upset if you don't do it the right way.
Yes, sir.
And next thing you know, there's a scandal. Right. So speaking of scandal, I know, right? He's like, what's coming next? How were you all created? The Graffiti Task Force, was it any type of big name in downtown Detroit who called along the guides to bring about the Graffiti Task Force, or was it something that was generated from a GSD, Detroit Police Department? How was the Graffiti Task Force created, Zach?
I'm not exactly sure. I've been there about a year. I think it started around 2014, 2015. And I think it was in response to the influx of graffiti. There had been some out-of-towners who came in, and that kind of re-energized the local guys, and then they all were trying to vie for it, and it was low on the totem pole of priorities for enforcement. And I think that there was some new leadership in downtown around that time, maybe. And so it became a priority, I think, through that administration.
Got it. So now I want to talk a little bit about the actual job itself. Now, are you out there wiping the walls and power washing and all that good stuff?
Anthony and I spent some time this winter handling some business, but for the most part, we have a crew of 6 guys who will manage our fleet and the materials. Okay, so you guys are out there on a regular basis, right? Yes, so come on, somebody sit in my seat then, because you're more qualified to sit in that seat than me. Please. So tell us about, if you will, you're on a power washer. Do you have a power washer that you use? So do you have are you on a crane? How tall is
yes,
the crane?
We call it a bucket, but yes, we use a lift to get up as high as 4 stories.
So how did you end up where you are today?
Well, it started a long time ago. No, I'm just joking.
Long time.
It started back in 14. I was laid off from the city. I was a building attendant at that time. And about a year and a half later, which went into 14, I was called back. And upon coming back, I was put on the graffiti team. And we started out, at that point, it had already been in existence, I think, a year. And we got a lot of things accomplished. I think the first year that I was there, the city, we did over 17,000 dwellings.
Wow.
And it was quite remarkable to really reiterate a question that you asked. It started out as the mayor's project, the mayor that we have now. It became his pet peeve, and it's been very successful since day one.
Okay. So it was something that was potentially proposed else at another time, but this particular mayor put it in effect because it was one of the priority issues that he thought was important.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And today we have removed around 75,000 tags in the lifetime of the program.
Oh, that's awesome. Give him a round of applause for that, y'all.
Thank you.
You probably don't notice it, so that's why you didn't give a hand clap on that one, because it's all gone. So we had some gentlemen who were here earlier, one of our initial First Fridays, that were linesmen that removed dangerous lines and power lines and addressed those issues. One of the challenges they talked about were not even dealing with the job itself of removing the power, dealing with the power. It was people and potentially animals out there. When you're out doing your job, what type of challenges do you face on a regular basis that are not necessarily dealing with the graffiti? Do you ever get accosted by someone? So if you're removing somebody's art or their graffiti or whatever you want to call it, do you ever get somebody come up to you, hey man, what you? Or do you have somebody in the neighborhood who likes that art and says, hey, why are you bothering? It's not bothering you, leave it alone. Talk to us about that.
We have all the above.
Okay.
It's back in 2014, we did have dogs put on us. We had guns shown but not drawn. And by it being the mayor's pet peeve, it's a priority. Right behind any emergency call, if the graffiti team were to call the police, they would be there in minutes. They're looking to make arrests so that we could either slow down or completely stop the graffiti, as we call it. One of the important issues is we're out there doing a job. We love what we do. I retired from the city back in 17, and I came back, and I could only work during the summer months because of my pension and Social Security. But I enjoy my work, and I'm more than happy to be back. And I would like the good work to continue. And I ask that the public, especially the residents of Detroit, understand what we're out to do, appreciate what we're doing, and we love accolades. You know what I'm saying? If you like to tell us that we're doing a good job, that makes morale high, you know. If you wish to look and continue to walk, that's fine too. But as far as threats and other issues that could deter our job, again, we take it serious, and we have no problem calling the Detroit Police or the Fire Department that will assist us in correcting that error.
Good. We got to make sure we keep you safe. And this is why we do these interviews, because we want to make sure that we humanize the people who do this job. You probably wouldn't have thought about this gentleman if you just drove by him and he's about, stand blasting or whatever you're doing to remove that graffiti. Never even thought about it. Now, hopefully you will. Hopefully you'll think about, and for those people who are watching again on the streaming broadcast, hopefully you'll think about these individuals as they're going about their day-to-day life, because these are regular folks who want to go home to their families, who encounter threats on a regular basis and challenges to not just their jobs, but their lives. So we want to give them a round of applause again.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's ask this question. If someone has some graffiti that they see that is bothering them, Is there a phone number or email, or what should they do? Who should they call?
Well, if they contact us while on the job, we will take photos of the area, submit it to our supervisor, and the process will take place from there.
Okay.
And we also, the C-Click Fix app is also one way to do it. We usually respond within 5 days to that. And then the number to call is 628-1136 to report graffiti that you see and want to get taken care of.
Say that one more time so the folks who are watching.
It's 628-1136.
All right. That's 313, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Any questions out there? I know we got some questions. Let me switch mics.
The assumption is that you primarily address the public right-of-ways or industrial buildings. What about residential properties that may be along alleyways that have been tagged? That's part one. And then with Motor City Makeover for District 1 being tomorrow, are there any particular tools or products that you would recommend using for those residential garages or alleyways?
Well, for the painting, paint that you would ordinarily use for outside dwellings. As far as brick, I wouldn't recommend the type of chemicals we use, because even though it's not toxic, it has no smell, but it can turn dark colored people awfully light if used improper.
Yeah, it's a corrosive chemical. And so for the Motor City Match thing, I think if you guys can identify some points along the way that you are highlighting that need help, that's something that you would want to reach out to us, whether Councilman Tate wants to reach directly to us, or if you do the C-Click Fix, or you do the call the phone number, that's something we can take care of. And if you have graffiti on a private property, which is a garage or whatever, that's something that we can take care of too. As long as you report it through those channels, that's something that we'll go and take care of. We don't only focus on the corridors. We do have regular rotations on that, but we have inputs from like 5 different sources to go take care of things. So we would definitely put it on the list.
Always amazed at the determination these people have, and I'm thinking offhand about Lou Plaza. I've been down on the boulevard a lot, and how. Thank you. And how they climbed up that roof, and put all that graffiti on, or they hang over the freeways. So you guys have to do the same thing to get it off, right? So that must be pretty dangerous at times.
Yes, but we use a lift, a bucket truck.
Yeah, they don't.
And they don't,
Yeah,
But you're right. It's amazing how they can lean over, and quite naturally they have help. Someone have to hold the legs.
And they're very talented to do it upside down.
They are, because it looked just like they was doing it upright, Mm-hmm.
We trying to pass it to you.
It's a difficult job, but somebody's got to do it.
Thank you. A few questions. You said that you guys, it's your duty to take off the art off of buildings. But how do you differentiate somebody who was commissioned to paint on a building but no longer wants the art? Like, what's the difference?
So you're saying if like a property owner commissioned the artwork and they don't want it anymore,
and they just say, "Oh, this, I never approved of this." Like, how can you tell the difference?
I mean, I guess we really wouldn't. If the property owner didn't want it on there and they don't, so we have a art registry. So if you go online, you can register the artwork on your property, whether it's graffiti art, no matter what kind of art it is. If it's sanctioned and the property owner wants it there, then we won't address it. And for example, when the guys are in the field, a lot of the time, if they have any questions about whether or not this is like sanctioned or not, then they reach out to me, and we look through the registration, and then we also try, if it's really close, we want to do our due diligence before we remove something like that.
One more question, maybe two. The next question is, you guys take off art. Is there a balance? And you say you also create like pathways and a platform for other artists to create more art. Mm-hmm. Is there like a balance to, like, let's just say you take all 5 pieces of art? Is there like 5 more pieces being created?
I would say no. I don't think the balance is exactly even as far as like the resources that go into the graffiti program and the resources that go into the art program City Walls. But you know, we started that in the summer of 2017 with a really small budget, and we're able to do some really good projects. And then so the budget was increased a bit for the second year, and so that's something that we are also trying to grow and show that it works and prove that it's having an impact. And so slowly but surely we're trying to balance it out. We will, if we can. So if a community group or something comes to us and says, you know, we want to do this art program, is there a way that you can assist? That is something that we'll look at and try to see if the crossover is there between the graffiti removal team, who has some heavy duty equipment and can accomplish things a little bit quicker than say just a volunteer group or something. So if we can assist, we try to do that as much as we can.
And one last question, if you don't mind. Piggybacking off of what James Tate said about scandals, not saying that you guys aren't doing your job right, but you said that sometimes people come watch, and you love that people come watch you guys do your work. But when you said the chemicals that you guys use are corrosive, was to say that somebody was to walk past and accidentally, you know, get some corrosive chemicals on them. Like, is there a procedure to kind of like have them like not be, you know?
Yes. What we have is there will always be a 2-man crew. You know, if there's people walking, we know they're going to walk past us, then we stop until they have actually walked by and went down a distance. Then we will continue. On ground level, there's not a problem. We use a long handle brush to put the chemical on, and then we'll power wash it off like 20 minutes later. For the high-rise graffiti, we use the bucket. The man on the first, that's on the ground level, his job is just as important as mine would be, being up on the bucket. You know, he's to alert me when there's people getting ready to walk by. The chemical, even with the power wash, it doesn't splash. You know what I'm saying? We have became quite professional with the job, and we can control the power wash up to a certain point.
Well, and it also has a bunch of lights on the truck, and they set the cones out, so it's very clear that there's a perimeter around the work area there, right, that separates from public and the work that's going on. I just wanted to...
Right, and we will have occasionally people, even though they can clearly see what we're doing, will walk through the barricades. We have had vehicles that have driven right through the barricades. You know, I was up in a bucket truck once, this was about 3 years ago, and generally I stretch my cones as far as I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? Alerting the traffic way ahead of time that there's some type of construction going on ahead of them, and they'll still come right on through. You know, they are more in a hurry to get where they're not going than to, you know, truly pay attention. So we have that concern with, especially when you're up in a bucket. You know what I'm saying? You have to be you have to know your surroundings. You know what I'm saying? You not only are you power washing, every now and then you're looking to make sure everything is safe, not only for yourself but for the public, you know, as well. So it's a very I consider it a very important job that we do, and we try to do it the smart way. You know, therefore so everyone involved is safe. Thank you.
Now this, I don't know if you call this graffiti or not, but what do you think about the Heidelberg project?
Oh, watch out now.
Well,
okay, I'm not going to touch that. But we have been in the area, and we tried. I don't recall any time that we take away any of that. That have went worldwide. So, you know, unless the supervisor has something to say on that, I wouldn't touch that.
Okay, so you just leave it alone.
I think so.
Is that last question?
Because that's art, Auntie. That's art, Auntie. Leave him alone. I don't know, maybe you answered this question. I got here a little late, but do you all have an area that you're focusing on now, or is it all through the city? Because I have some graffiti on a building on the end of my block, Patton and Schoolcraft, and I would love for you all to come get it off.
Yeah, we can take care of that. So what we do is we have 23 main corridors. So, you know, the Spokes and 7 Mile, 8 Mile, and Warren and Van Dyke, and a host of different main corridors that we try to do a rotation on and keep those ones especially clean. And then we also get inputs from See Click Fix, or we'll get inputs from the phone call, or we'll get inputs for special projects. So, you know, we keep this rotation, but then if you were to put that in or make that call, then we would go take care of that too. We get also B-Seed, so B-Seed writes tickets all over the city, and if they get a graffiti one, we pull that information and we take care of those. And so yeah, we have like 5 or 6 different inputs that will dictate what we're doing. So, what was that? Schoolcraft and Patton? Can you remember that, Reese? Yeah. You put that down?
So when y'all come? When y'all come?
Well, right now, actually, we are all. It might not be today, but because right now we have a full force effort trying to put the the bags of sand. Trying to everybody's pitching in full force there, but we should be back on the game next week.
So talk to us about that, if you don't mind. We'll come back to it. So can you talk to us about the sandbag issue? Because you guys are assisting with that, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, talk to us about what you're doing over there.
Yes, we're that happened to be my area. I stay in that area, so I'm very pleased with the city.
Which area is that? What area?
The Jefferson Chalmers area.
And using AB Ford as the home base, the park
Right.
there, and the state made it a state of emergency today, I believe. And so there's been a great response with volunteers and people in pitching in. And I know that a lot of the water has been reduced over in that area. So it's been kind of cool to see. I don't know. Do you know how many sandbags they made?
Well, as of yesterday, we did over 10,000. I'm quite sure before it's over with and done with, it'll be close to perhaps 20,000. And you would think 20,000 sandbags, you know what I'm saying?
And I'm not sure if you all are familiar at all with what the issue is, but with the rain we've had over the past couple of days, you've had a state of emergency that was announced by the governor because we've had numerous flooded areas, some of which are in the city of Detroit. You have water that's going over the seawall into the homes and flooding the basements in their house.
Correct.
So you all, along with some other employees of the city, are helping to fill these sandbags where people
Yes, sir.
come and pick them up. So
Yes.
thank you all for doing that. Just wanted to give
Okay.
context.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, can you talk briefly about the...
Hey, Reg.
Oh, yeah. Microphone. Can you talk briefly about the City Walls program, how it's going to be rolled out, and how that's going to impact District 1? I think you said there about how many murals were going to be painted.
Yeah. So the outdoor paint season runs from about May to October, and so we're ramping up our City Walls effort this year. And so we have a couple of residency programs. We have parkside artists who are going to do murals that are adjacent to the parks that we've renovated. We have this heritage mural residency program where we have 3 hand-painted sign artists who are taking themes about Detroit supplied by the Entertainment Commission and working with property owners to paint sort of like these vintage hand-painted signs that tell the story of the city, past, present, future. And then we have 3 mural artists who are going to paint murals across the city. And so we are going to distribute those murals evenly across all the districts. So your district should get somewhere around 8, give or take, new works of art throughout the season. And so we are going to work with the council member, the neighborhood business liaisons, and the Department of Neighborhoods to have a visioning session. So we want to bring the community together so they can meet the 3 mural artists and they can talk about themselves. All of our artists are Detroiters, and they can talk about themselves and what their motivations are. And then we can also have a session to sort of like give them inspiration as they work on what they're going to paint. So that should be coming up soon.
And we want to thank you all for joining us today at our first Friday Satellite Hours. And make sure I get the names right, because y'all didn't have to be here either. We really appreciate it. This is Zachary Meers, Anthony Woods, and Reese Gallimore. Thank you all for joining us, gentlemen.
Thank you.